All right, Helen, let's see what you did here. Working before studies, let's see. University studies straight after high school can be a choice for some students, while other pupils might be better off working. Here you want working, not to work. We say better off doing something for a while before attending higher education. I firmly believe that working a year before enrolling in higher education is a better choice than enrolling right after high school. This essay will explain and explore my point of view by giving some examples from personal experience. Okay. Um, this is fine. I think it's good overall, although there is something that felt a little strange to me. You've got this sentence here that university studies might be good for some, while for others, it's better to work. And then you said, I think that working is better. So I really wanted some sort of cohesion here. So you could have said something, for example, like, I firmly believe that the latter choice is a better option than enrolling right after school. Okay, so this way you're creating some cohesion. Or you could have done something else. You could have said, it is widely believed that university studies straight after high school can be a choice for some students, while others believe pupils might be better off, etc., etc. So this way you're posing it as a some people think this, some people think this, and then phrasing your choice like this makes more sense. Okay, so a couple of different options how to do this. I felt that this was kind of strange because the way you posed it was like, this is an option, this is an option, um, this is an option for some students. This is an option for some students. I think the second option is better. I mean, it's okay. I just think there were better ways of doing it. Okay. All right. Let's keep going. One reason to take a gap year, you don't need a comma here because you wouldn't pause as you're speaking, and so you don't need a comma when you write. One reason to take a gap year would be that after 12 years in school, here you do pause. Some students are tired of studies and really need no S a break, a timeout that will help them to find the motivation and all right, careful. This is not a sentence. Look, there's no verb. A timeout that will help them, yes, but it's part of a relative clause. Okay, a timeout. And then where's the verb? There is none. Because to find and to help are just part of your relative clause. So it's a fragment. What you could have done is you could have put a comma here. And this way, this a timeout, etc., kind of explains what this break that you're talking about is. So that would have been okay. For instance, if someone's intention is to study medicine and get the opportunity to work in a hospital as an assistant nurse for a year, this not only gives some great working experience, comma, it also helps the student to know if this is the right choice of study, right choice of subject to study for them. Furthermore, since university studies are very expensive, it is better for students to work and save some money before enrolling. This will give them less stress over the financial issues of the next coming years of studies. Therefore, experiencing, here you wanted an ing. Work before enrolling in higher study gives the student motivation and some financial relief. Okay, I think this is nice. I think it's very good. Um, let's see. So motivation, they're tired, help find motivation. And to know if it's the right. Okay. I just looked it over again. I wanted to make sure that the linkage of the ideas was appropriate. I think it's fine. I I wasn't really sure if this was the best example, but reading again, I thought it was fine because you said the direction of the further study, so it helps them know if it's the right choice. It was fine. So you linked it just fine. Okay. All right, let's take a look. I'm a little concerned that this paragraph is so small. If you look at it, it's pretty much the same length as your introduction, and that should be a sign to you that maybe you didn't develop it as much as you should. Let's see what you wrote though. One side effect of working before starting higher education would be that some students will just never start to study again. Once getting used, here you want a D, to having ing here, an income and the freedom to spend it, comma, it can be hard to start living on a small budget again as a student. That's an interesting point. Furthermore, to choose to postpone the start of university studies can also delay the opportunities for the career ladder. Here you mean with a double D, not a T. It's a different word. You want the career ladder. Since the students will graduate later than, here you want an A, those who go directly from school. Okay, so this was kind of what I was worried about. I definitely feel like this was a little underdeveloped. There was absolutely more you could say here. We're going to talk about it in a minute. Let's just read your conclusion quickly, and then we'll go back to your body paragraphs. In conclusion, get rid of meanwhile. In conclusion, a break between compulsory school and university studies can lead to an easier determination of studies and reduces the financial stress. Full stop here, put a period there. It can also delay, however, an upcoming career. So you wanted some sort of contrast here. So here you're talking about the positives. Here, when you write this new sentence, make sure you put some sort of link or showing contrast. Now I want to take a look at your body paragraphs. All right, so let's talk a little bit about now your body paragraphs. First of all, they ask if it's better and they ask why. Then you say you firmly believe it's a better choice and you will explain your point of view. So this paragraph makes complete sense. It links to your introduction. You're talking about the positives. And so all that is very good. What then doesn't make sense to us is this paragraph. Because here you're talking about basically like the negative sides of this, but there was no reason for you to do that. There was nothing in your introduction or anything even in the task itself that said you have to discuss both sides. So this paragraph for me had two problems. It both related to task achievement. Number one, it was underdeveloped. Number two, it didn't really belong here. It would have belonged if you had said somewhere, I believe that despite the drawbacks of working before school, this is a better choice than enrolling right after school. Okay, if you had said that, if you had allowed for this little window of maybe, that there are some negatives, then this paragraph would have made sense. But you never said anything about this. You only said, I firmly believe that working is great. So this came out of nowhere for us. Okay. And as I said before, it was underdeveloped. Another thing that I want to suggest, so I want to suggest several things. The first thing I want to suggest is, as I said already, if you're going to have a paragraph like this, you really do want to indicate it in your introduction. Show that there is this little window that allows you to basically explore the other side of the argument, okay? That there might be some validity to it. You have to do that in your introduction, okay? It's pretty important because remember the introduction is the blueprint to the rest of your essay. Okay, so that's the first thing I would like to do. I'd like you to rephrase your introduction so that you let the examiner know essentially that you're going to address the other side of this option as well and talk about how there is some validity to it. All right, so that's the first thing. The second thing I'd like to do is I'd like this paragraph, which we call the concession paragraph, I'd like that to come first. So in other words, you have your introduction, and then you have this paragraph where you say, admittedly, there are some drawbacks when students decide to work before continuing on to higher education. Okay, and then you have a paragraph that explains those. All right, then you do that. Then you talk about your side. You talk about the side that you actually support. And when you do that, you give it weight. You make it seem stronger. It's kind of like, yeah, I talked about this. Okay, there's some validity, but listen to my side of the argument. So it makes your side seem that much stronger. And then, of course, it links better to your conclusion. And it also remains in the mind of the reader. So for all those reasons, it's a good idea for this paragraph to come first and then this paragraph to come second. Okay? But again, develop it further, and also make absolutely certain that you indicate you're going to talk about both sides in your introduction. Okay, all right, so that's pretty much it about this task 2. Let's go to your task 1. Okay, so we have here global spending and the global population. Let's see what you wrote. Global spending. Okay, so the other category, got it. And then the biggest population was in Asia. Okay, fine. The bar charts illustrate the distribution of global population. Wait, what's this? Within. All right, I think you mean within, but global population within Europe, America, it says Americans. I think it means the Americas. So within Europe, the Americas, Africa, Asia, and others, and the global spending without the S within 5 different categories. Okay, fine. And put a full stop here. Overall, Asia was the most populated continent, while the category other was the least. Okay. The global population liked to spend the least money on clothing and the most on other spending areas. Okay. So I saw in your email that you said something about other and how you didn't know how to treat it. There are a handful of ways to do it. I like that you capitalized it here. I would have said other, okay, with a capital, or you could put it in quotations, sorry. You can put it in quotation marks, and that also works. Because otherwise it's difficult to distinguish whether you're literally using the word other or whether you're actually talking about it as a category. So capitalizing it was okay. Again, I think that also putting quotations around it is a good thing to do. Okay, fine. So clothing on that, let's see, other was fine. So you're talking about the highest and lowest, the highest and lowest, fine. Looking at the figure of global population, Asia was the most populated with 57%, which is 40% more than any other continent. Good, good. Europe and America had the same figure at 14%. Meanwhile, Africa had 4% less at a percentage of 10. Lowest figure, what? Did the group of others have? No, that's awkward. The lowest figure, I know what you're trying to say here, and I like the attempt, but it still sounds strange. The lowest figure was found in the other group at 5%. Okay, that's how I would do this sentence. Let's keep going. Regarding global spending, I wouldn't have said it like this, the spendings. I would have said just global spending. It's how we say it essentially. 40% spent their money. I don't know why you've decided to use this did here. It should be 40% spent their money on other things. Again, you could have put the quotes there. On other things, followed by food. I would not have put an and here. So let's try it again. 40% spent their money on other things, followed by food at 24%. Transportation was the third most chosen area in global spending at a figure of 18%. The two least chosen areas of spending were housing and clothing with 12 and 6% respectively. Okay, so it's fine. Honestly, it's fine. However, I do think you could have done more. If you notice, there's not really a whole ton you can do with these numbers in the global population. However, I found here that there were, how can I say this? Like, they were like multiples of each other. Does that make sense? So, for example, look at this. You could have said other was the highest spending at 40%, whereas clothing was the least spent item at 6%. The next least, or rather, the next lowest spending was double the amount of clothing at 18%. Transport, which was the third biggest expenditure, was triple the amount of clothing. Okay, so do you understand what I'm saying? I'm not saying you have to do this for every single one, but you could have used some of these numbers like that. Here you've got that clothing is 1/4 of this. Here you've got that clothing is half of this, and clothing is 1/3 of this. Do you understand what I mean? So you could have made some of those connections. I'm not saying in every sentence again or with every piece of data, but I do think you could have made some of those comparisons. Okay. Instead, what you did is it was literally just like a very going down the row kind of explanation. Here you've got 40%, followed by 24%, followed by 18%, followed by 12, and by 16%. So I think you understand what I'm saying. It doesn't show meaningful analysis when you just go straight down the row. The language you used was great. I don't have any problem with the language. Don't misunderstand me. But I would like to see you doing something a little more advanced with your treatment of the figures. Okay? All right, so that brings us to the end of this. It's a good set. I want you to feel good about it. But of course, there are some things that I want you to work on to make it something that I think is worthy of the kind of score I know you want to get. Okay, so keep at it. And gosh, I want to see if there was something in your email that I didn't cover. Let me see. So really quickly, we talked about this and how to refer to the others. You asked me if you need to use 2 examples. No, not necessarily. You could use one example, but you just have to make sure that it's really very fully, very richly developed. Most people I find have trouble with that. And so sometimes for them, it's easier to use 2. There are some types of topics that I think really kind of lend themselves to 2 examples rather than one. But if you find yourself really, really pressed for time and you can be certain that you can develop one idea really fully, then by all means do so. But it's just going to require a lot of information, a lot of development, a lot of support. Okay. We talked about your introduction a little bit. Remember what I told you about the concession and about if you're going to talk about the opposite side in a to what extent essay or when they just ask you your opinion, then you definitely have to indicate it either way that, especially there, you have to indicate that you are going to talk about the other side as well. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Let me know if you have any other questions. I'll be waiting for the next set. So good luck.